Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Lee.
Hello.
Hi there.
Does anyone occasionally hear a female's voice kind of in the background?
I'm hearing something, but I don't know what it is.
Yep.
Is it my wife out talking in the other room?
Yep.
She's on the phone. We'll see if
Yep.
we can do. We'll see if we can do something about that.
Good luck,
Alrighty.
David. Nice knowing you.
Madam Chair, just so you know, I see that Dana Hill is joined us as an attendee. When we get to that section of the agenda,
Yep,
you give me the heads up and I'll bring her over.
sounds good.
Okay.
Hopefully that's improved the slight bit. I had my wife going to another corner of the room.
She's gonna send you out to the woodshed.
Oh, man.
Well, this old house has got thick walls to it. It's just there's no doors on it, so I can't shut a door. So consequently, I just had to go further around the corner of the walls. That's all. Hopefully that'll suffice.
Lately, it looked like you've had a long day waiting for 6 o'clock.
No, more like, oh my God, I've got to get up to the house at 6 o'clock. Well, and it is 6 o'clock. So welcome everyone to the Lincolnville Selectmen's meeting. It is May 11th. And before we get to the quote of the evening, just as a reminder to anyone watching at home or out in internet land, as declared by the governor, the Lincolnville Select Board is allowed to conduct this remote meeting subject to the Maine Freedom of Access Act. If you have more questions on that, I'm sure we can help you at the town office, or if you contact the town office, we can give you more information on that. We will be voting by roll call for everything, including adjournment. And without further ado, John, would you care to read the quote of the evening?
Sure. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy, for it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me, there's something stronger, something better pushing right back. I like that.
Good one.
Oh, Albert Camus.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And David, do we have anyone for the Citizens Forum?
We did not.
Okay, moving rapidly along, let's get to the administrator's report.
Sorry, it's got to take notes and keep up here. Just so you know, the Maine Department of Transportation, I think we talked about this a couple meetings ago, had put out for a bid project along Route 1 in Camden. Those bids received came back higher, much higher than anticipated. The state has rejected all of those bids, and judging by the markings on the road, it looks like they're going to put skinny mix down, or something maintenance mix to make it smooth and black for a period of time. It also looks like they're preparing to do that on a section of Route 52 headed into Camden. Just wanted to give everybody a heads up because there were probably or will likely be traffic impacts in Lincolnville should those projects go on. Our new float down to the harbor has been delivered. It's in the process of being hooked up. I didn't check with the harbor master today, but about the hookup, but it's here and looked good from a distance. I obviously couldn't get on it because it's out in the water. And although I haven't heard from one member of the Board of Assessors, it looks as though the Board of Assessors will be meeting next Monday night at 6 o'clock. Selectmen late will remain
I'm
nameless.
good. I'll see if I can get in touch with whoever. I think I can make it.
No public shaming.
Yeah.
I knew there was something I was supposed to do.
And I think that's it for administrators' report besides what's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, David.
Oh, I lied. I just wanted to say that the Rec Commission had a socially distanced meeting at the possible park property, Coastal Mountains today.
Okay.
And they expressed unanimous support for the concept of the land exchange.
Great. Thank you for taking the time to do that, Recreation Commission. Can we move along to meetings and announcements?
Yes, all meetings are held remotely unless announced otherwise. The Budget Committee meets tomorrow, Tuesday, May 12th, 6 p.m. Broadband Committee is meeting Thursday, May 14th at 7 p.m. The Board of Select town office will be closed on Monday, May 25th, in observance of Memorial Day. For anybody that's watching out there, there is no parade scheduled in Lincolnville on Memorial Day. There will be a small observance at both the Veterans Memorial and at Frohock. And Board of Selectmen is scheduled to meet next on Tuesday, May 26th, 6 p.m. And the Board of Assessors, although it's not listed on the agenda, are now scheduled to meet on Monday, May 18th, 6 p.m.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Are there any upcoming community events anyone would care to share? Seeing as that's not a popular thing to do these days, we'll move along to the meeting
Oh,
minutes.
I have one more thing under announcements and meetings.
Sure.
How to tune in to the Budget Committee meeting, Broadband Committee, and Selectmen's. Well, the Budget Committee and the Broadband Committee under announcements on the town's website has information how to log on, watch, and participate. And the Selectmen's meetings are, are always listed on the agenda itself, how to participate. Just wanted to get that out there for anybody watching.
Great. Thank you very much, David. So we have two sets of meeting minutes. The first is from the 27th of April. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the April 27th, 2020 meeting minutes as presented.
I second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Barrows. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. We have minutes from our meeting of May 4th. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the board approve the May 4th, 2020 meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
Moved by Selectman Barrows, seconded by Selectman Fishman. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you very much. Motion passes. And I think it's time to bring Dana over, David. As next on our agenda, we have a liquor license renewal application from the Inn at Sunrise Point.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Dum-da-dum.
Oh, look at that.
Good evening, Dana. Oh, it's muted again.
For you.
There she is.
Hi,
Hi,
All
welcome.
right.
Hello.
thank you.
Thanks for joining us this evening remotely. We have your renewal application. Do we have a motion?
I move that the board approve and sign the liquor license application submitted by the Inn at Sunrise Point.
Second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion made by Selectman Barrows and seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion or questions for the representative from the Inn at Sunrise Point? Seeing no one jumping up and down. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes,
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes,
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The motion passes. Thank you very much for popping in.
Thank you for
Thanks.
having me. I appreciate
Dana,
it.
You.
Dana, we'll get that signed and get it to you.
We'll try to
Thank
be
you.
expeditious in signing.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, you as
You
well.
too.
You
Thank you
too.
too.
Alrighty. And next we have Selectmen updates. Selectman Barrows, do you have an update for us?
we haven't had any meeting for Midco Solid Waste. We're in the process of, the personnel board is in the process of checking out, some information which we'll announce later. I've got most everything put together. I gotta get a hold of one more person and then I'll turn my information back to the full board at the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Selectman Late, where did he go?
Disappeared.
Hang on. Somehow he got moved over. Whoops. Now he's coming back.
There he is.
There you are. You're still muted though.
there we go.
Yes. Selectman Late, what updates do you have for us?
Okay, we had a strategic and capital planning meeting, which involved our new manager for Midco Solid Waste and the interim manager, and we talked about some information that they had put together on hauling contracts and things of that nature, which will be coming up. A lot of really good information, and I really just would like to relay the fact that I'm impressed with this new manager, and I'm also very impressed with the interim manager. So there'll be more information on this to follow once the board has a chance. Once we presented it to the board, Midco Solid Waste Board, and some decisions get made. But we're starting to move forward, obviously with Zoom meetings. That's all I've got for right now.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that update. Selectman Garrettson, do you have any updates for us?
Just that the broadband committee is meeting on Thursday, as David said. So really excited to get back to work and have a conversation. Alan Hinsey from LCI will be attending. So having a conversation with him and hopefully moving forward with a way to survey the people of Lincolnville and get a better idea of broadband use here and people's thoughts and feelings about it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Selectman Fishman, do you have an update for us?
Nope, just that I'm going to be actually in that broadband committee meeting and getting caught up on that. So I'll get back on the board after being out of the loop for a while.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I have no updates. So, yep, leave it at that. All right, moving along to agenda item number 8. David, I'll let you take the intro to this one.
Sure. excuse me, that's allergy, not anything more substantial, or at least I hope. Back on the 23rd of March, the board voted to close the town office to in-person transactions until such time as the board thought it was safe and appropriate, again, open to in-person transactions. As it's looking right now, the guidance provided by the governor's office and Maine CDC, we should be able to reopen June 1st, provided we meet certain safety criteria. We're anticipating that the Department of Economic and Community Development will be issuing a, what's called it, well, for lack of better words, a checklist about safe guidance, how to reopen. That as of today, when I looked, it had not been issued, but things get rolled out pretty quickly. Thus far, the kind of the plan based on what we've seen from other checklists would be for us, when the board is ready, to open the front door, literally and figuratively, prop it open if weather permits, so that people don't have to be utilizing the front door handle. The vestibule door open would be propped open as well. If the front door handle didn't allow the front door to be propped open because of, I don't know, snow in middle of May again, we would look to sanitize that periodically throughout the day, along with the counter surfaces. The public would be allowed into what is the front counter lobby only. We do have the recommended social distancing between the two counter stations, so we could have both open if need be. We would limit that to 2 customers at a time, with 2 at time might be actually 2 people that reside in the same household, whether it be like a parent and child, or if somebody was coming to get a marriage license, they could come to the same counter, and we could still have somebody else at the other counter and still maintain the distances. If necessary, and we needed it for flow of customers in and out, we could have somebody at the front door guiding people in and out when it was time to come in and out. We don't know how overwhelmed or underwhelmed we're going to be with people when we open up. But we'll have to monitor that on a ongoing basis. We have yet to install the sneeze guards at the front counter, but those will be here and up prior to opening to assist in providing that separation between customers and employees. As far as personal protective equipment, we have a good supply of disposable gloves, disposable face mask, and hand sanitizer here. We would encourage customers on their way in to wear face masks, practice good social distancing and hygiene, and certainly not to enter the building if they were displaying signs of illness or had been in contact with someone displaying signs of illness. Also in advance, we would encourage people to, if possible, do their business via online services, telephone or email or US mail, just to minimize person-to-person contact. And again, we wouldn't look to have people come by the front counters because we can't maintain social distancing beyond that spot. So we would look to have the room I'm in right now, the conference room, and any of the back offices would remain closed or off. Not closed, we'd be here working, but off limits to people coming in. For example, if somebody wanted to meet with a code enforcement officer, we wouldn't allow them back to that office like had been past practice until some of the other conditions and safety allowed. So that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of things that we've thought of ourselves or stolen from other places. And in preparation for this, did include in the packet some information from some of the other communities that another town clerk had shared with me about tentative openings around the state. Obviously, there are like 490 communities, and the list probably had, what, 20 or 25 towns on it, with the vast majority looking at a June 1st opening. My thought was to get the board's opinion as to other things that we could or should be doing. Also looking at monitoring what's going on in the world between now and, or at least in our corner of the world, between now and June 1st, so that, you know, at the board's meeting on May 26th, you could either say, yep, that sounds like we're still on track, let's do this, or things have changed and no, we shouldn't do this, or we need to make sure we do these things in addition prior to opening. So that's the long and the short of it at the moment.
Great. Thoughts from the board?
I think this is a good plan. I'm glad we're gonna check it one last time in 2 weeks and make sure we're really prepared to open on June 1st.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Can I have a motion then?
I move that the board tentatively establish the reopening date for in-person transactions at the town office as June 1st, 2020, and that on May 26th, as part of the board's meeting, after reviewing safety protocols and available data, the decision to reopen on June 1st be confirmed or amended as deemed appropriate by the board.
I second that.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you all very much. And moving along, we have, and you have before you, a draft of the annual town meeting warrant to be held July 14th. Questions, thoughts, concerns? David Kinney, I don't know if you have anything you wish to speak to specifically.
Yeah, just a little bit about the land exchange article.
Mhm.
The board had asked that I look at and prepare a cost estimate for what it might cost for full reopening, as well as ongoing annual maintenance cost. That turned out to be quite a challenge. As you learn more about the facility and what's there and not there. In terms of reestablishing it, some of that, if, for example, the restroom facilities, right now the systems are all winterized and shut off, so it's kind of impossible to know what may or may not need to be done. We also haven't had any full discussions on what the board envisions for operations once it opens, in terms of staffing, locking the gate, those type of more day-to-day operations. So what I had done and included in the meeting packet is kind of a hybrid of what the two directions you'd given me, looking at trying to basically take care of safety concerns should the land exchange be done, and providing more maintenance to kind of hold it in the condition it's in, while we develop some of the more in-depth policy decisions that on operations. Did have some correspondence with folks from Coastal Mountains, and they're in the process of trying to figure out how they're going to maintain the site between now and when some possible exchange might take place, primarily mowing. And I did make a suggestion for some minimal signage, just so that if any public, whether it be, well, it wouldn't be our guess till it opened, but apparently some people have been traversing that property, to outline where that property is in relation to the neighboring properties, so that people don't inadvertently access private property. So that's kind of out there. So what I had done was made a few assumptions that that the transfer of the property was it won't be open to the public basically for the remainder of this year. We may transfer the titles to each if it gets approved prior, but the likelihood of actually opening that park to me is pretty slim in this calendar year. And restrooms are unlikely and on budget for it in the upcoming fiscal year. Site water and electricity wouldn't be available. The gate would remain closed. The park was safe. I think that goes without speaking, that we wouldn't encourage people to use it in an unsafe condition, and that we wouldn't be looking to do any winter maintenance to the parking lot and driveways during the upcoming winter season. And then I won't bother to read all the things we would be doing, but basically looking at establishing boundaries to help public that might use the park. Taking down identification marks that say it belongs to Point Lookout, because that's obviously not the case. That was a couple owners ago. There are some trees on the property that are either dead or dying, or that winter storm that we had in early April, there's a couple of them that kind of snapped at the top, that things are still hanging that really need to be addressed prior to letting a lot of people in. We need to evaluate the plumbing and electrical systems to make sure those are safe and usable, and set some policy as to whether or not we'd want those to be used. And then looking at mowing services down there to just as a holding action while we figure out, you know, are we going to try to cut back some of the overgrown plantings? Are we going to try to reestablish the paths? Those types of questions. So there's a lot to it that still remains, but still was able to come up with a fairly substantial dollar figure for just a holding action.
Thoughts or questions from the board?
David, is there any information out there, or do we know if there's any information out there as to when that facility was up and functional, meaning the bathrooms, and when the last time?
I believe the last time, nobody's provided me any information, but what you learn from kind of osmosis, I guess, is that those were actually used back the last time that Point Lookout was open, and they did get winterized or the systems were drained, but I don't believe it's been anything's really been done there besides the real basic maintenance since that time.
Okay.
Part of the concern is obviously if we allow the what's now lawn to go back to a field, you know, the getting it back to a lawn again adds to the challenge and expense.
Yeah, certainly. I'm curious, does anyone on the board have any thoughts or suggestions on assigning a dollar amount to be included on the town meeting warrant? Or if there aren't, does someone care to make a motion?
Well, David, you've got a number of 13,000 700.
Yeah,
Correct.
Is that it is just considering the conversation that we've just had, is that extremely conservative?
Well, it's not a open it back up to, NBNA glory days. It's more of taking care of obvious safety things with dead and dying trees, maintaining grass,
maintain
fully
boundaries.
marking the boundaries so that when it's opened in a limited fashion and people start accessing the site, they don't traverse onto private property that's right next door. Some of it, it just, for example, there's a fence that's established between the park and the neighbors towards Route 1, but the fence is 40 feet away from the property line onto the neighbor's property. It's not at the boundary. So it looks like the park goes further than it does. And I think we want to make sure that people are aware of where if this becomes a public park, where they should and shouldn't go. And, I don't think we're looking at anything too extremely fancy. And I've talked to, conversed with the folks from Coastal Mountains again about possibly putting some temporary signage up. Some of their other parks or preserves have that. And even if we don't end up acquiring it, I think it is a good neighborly thing. They ought to consider doing that.
Yeah.
We could put a raider number to this and put it forward to the voters. I wouldn't lose any sleep over that. I think, there's certainly expenses and things that at some point could and should be done. But until we really delve into some of the details about what the community expectations are once they get there, it's a little bit of putting the cart before the horse, I guess. We could do it and say, woohoo, we've got, these facilities perfectly good and operating. But if it's something that the community's not going to desire or want when they get there, and we had a conversation somewhat today with the rec committee when they toured the site about how that's going to be determined. And in reality, probably this group of selectmen may want to consider putting together maybe a hybrid committee of, a rec committee person, somebody from the public, maybe a neighbor, maybe somebody from conservation. All these things got running through your mind about ways to, in essence, develop a comprehensive plan for the park. Maybe the selectmen want to take on that role themselves. But we haven't had those discussions yet. And the timing was we're up against it. We've got to have questions for town meeting to the printer by Friday to get the machine programmed and the ballots done. So it's an accelerated schedule.
Yeah, and certainly it seems like, David, that, any of those conversations would dovetail with drafting policy too, with regards to use of the land. It seems like, should the voters approve this exchange, we really kind of have to get into it and utilize it to a small degree or gentle degree, and then really kind of find where the weak spots are.
Yeah, the other that we've talked about with Coastal Mountains is partnering to try to find some grant funds. And I communicated with a fellow whose name escapes me at the moment from State of Maine Bureau of Parks and Rec about some opportunities they have. And we may kind of wiggle into one of their programs, or maybe not the ones that he's in charge of, but he's going to do a little legwork too to see if there's some other things that they might be able to offer us where the restoration of this would work. They're constantly looking for public access or public accessibility to the shore. And there seems to be a little bit almost of a desert of an opportunity, or a desert in the mid-coast area, where they have a real lack of locations such as this, where the public can access, shorefront. So I thought that was positive. He didn't throw any money my way, but it was a good conversation. And I think there are pools out there that are available to us that could supplement this. And, we may end up using some of this for a match too.
Okay. Well, so does someone want to make a motion that will become Article 5 with a dollar amount that we can include?
I
Well,
move that,
Oh, okay. Oh, go ahead.
I move that Article 5 be advanced to the voters as part of the annual town meeting with a dollar figure of 13,730.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Barrows, seconded by Selectman Fishman. Selectman Fishman, did you have discussion?
I just was only, just to clarify the discussion, that this 13,700 is just sort of a, to keep it from going to pot kind of money. It's keep it in a holding pattern, right? I mean, that's my understanding. It's not, we're not necessarily improving it. We're not bringing the facilities back up, where it's just keep the lawn mowed, keep the, clear the trees that have fallen in and keep it from degrading. And then, getting in there and examining more closely what it would actually take to bring it back up to full, glory day condition, working bathrooms, working grills, all that kind of stuff. But this just keeps it from being reclaimed by
Yes.
Mother Earth.
Yeah. Well, I would clarify to get us in there and get it to a point where we can sort of see what
Manage it. Yeah.
what we as a voting, what our voters essentially want out of the property. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, this is a question for David Kinney. Do we need to specify in this motion that we wish these to come from undesignated fund balance?
You don't need to, because the article is written that way, so that when you get to the second half of this discussion about the town meeting warrant,
Yep.
This will just told me what to insert for the dollar amount
Okay,
in
good.
Article 5, which clearly says from unassigned fund balance.
Doesn't hurt to be clear, but all right. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. And as David said, since the deadline for the printer is before our next meeting, we have the draft town meeting warrant in front of us. Can I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the annual town meeting warrant for July 14th, 2020, and that when the budget committee recommendations are known, that these be added to the warrant.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Barrows. Is there discussion?
I just have a quick question. I'm assuming Article 12, which is regarding the exclusive right to take alewives and blueback herring. That's just something we always pass every year. Can someone just explain what exactly this is?
I can do that. It is something that we've traditionally asked town meeting to do. It's been prior to my arrival here, but probably 8 or 10 years ago now, the was it Lakes and Ponds? I think it was Lakes and Ponds Committee met with Mike Brown from Marine Resources regarding alewives and the restoration of alewives. I mean, they're already running in the duck trap up to Pitcher Pond, and then some go to Pitcher Pond and some go to, what is it, Tilden Pond, up even further upstream out of Lincolnville. And they had encouraged us at the time to continue to close the fisheries so that people don't take them for lobster bait or anything else, so that they would continue to increase in numbers. And they had an estimate of how many fish actually made it to Pitcher Pond versus how many Pitcher Pond could actually support. And it was quite eye-opening at the time. To me, it was quite interesting. And that's kind of where we've been on this, is trying to restore that traditional run up to its maximum. And they encouraged it actually for a period of time. I believe they had adopted some state rules that prohibited the taking, but those are no longer in place. So if we don't do this, we actually have an ordinance that outlines how somebody could apply for and get approval. But this has just been tradition until such time as they thought there was a sustainable harvest there.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
That'll be on our FAQs that will go out to our voters, because it comes up, I think, annually. Yeah. Any more discussion? Seeing no more.
I want to bring something up just so you know. Article 13, which talks about the charging of interest on taxes. That right now is established at what's drafted in there is the maximum allowable to us, which is established at the state. You could set that as something lower if you so desired, or ask the voters to approve something at that level or lower. Obviously, that's an inducement to people to pay their taxes on time, which is helpful to cash flow purposes. Just wanted to make sure you were aware.
Yeah, well, and to emphasize that point to anyone who has questions about why we can't forgive interest, is because that motion was passed last June. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you all very much. And it's worth noting for anyone who's curious that the work that we did a week ago, the Board of Selectmen seeks $89,260, and that equates to just a shad over 9% less from the property tax than what we approved, what our voters approved a year ago. And that our municipal portion that we're discussing constitutes 14.7% of what we pay for taxes. The remaining 85.3% is both county and education. So I almost said it at the last board meeting, but before you know it, we're going to be approving winter salt. And here we are. We have bids, and we've worked with the New England Salt Company in the past. They're the low bidder. Do we have a motion?
I move that the road salt bid for finance year 2021 be awarded to New England Salt Company LLC at the delivered price of $48.48 per ton and picked up price of $48 per ton, and that the town administrator is hereby authorized to enter into agreement with New England Salt Company LLC under these terms.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Barrows, seconded by Selectman Fishman. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what is your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you very much. And David and I have been having an ongoing conversation, and I think David has some new updated thoughts, which I will hand over to you to further elaborate on.
Sure. Back just before or just as the pandemic situation was taken off, I got approached by the Camden and Rockport town managers. They invited Samantha Mank, who's the town administrator, and Hope and I down to have a conversation about EMS services, our emergency medical system services. The Camden and Rockport have had some discussions about creating a community education and outreach process to evaluate what's out there for EMS service models that might change what they are doing currently, and try to educate the public and gather input back from the public regarding what's out there and available, and wanted to know if we wanted to participate within that, and provided me the information that I put in your packet. I didn't want to get out ahead of the board, obviously, on this, because last year, roughly at this time, we were reaching out to the folks from the other 3 communities saying we'd like to have a board level discussion about our common goals and objectives, or about our goals and objectives, to see if they were still common. We were unsuccessful in that endeavor to get people together to talk about. Hope and Lincolnville both went with 2-year contracts with Northeast Mobile Health Services. Camden and Rockport both went with a single-year contract, which Camden and Rockport have now renewed and extended another year, so that all 4 towns' contracts with Northeast will expire June 30th, 2021, at the end of this upcoming fiscal year. The schedule that they put forth back in early March, as you see, was really looking to try to start in April with this effort. Well, obviously, April didn't materialize. There's not a chance you're really going to get much community involvement or input to come to meetings or express concerns when you can't get a meeting together. I think they had been looking to get this study done in time for, if it was going to recommend any changes to the system, in time for discussions and budgeting for fiscal year 22. So that's it in a nutshell. I could probably ramble on about this for a longer period of time, but I won't, unless you've got some specific questions that I might be able to answer.
Questions or thoughts from the board?
Lately, did you know anything about this with your participation in the EMS review committee?
No, not only what David has updated me on in our, ongoing dialogue about how to have our board have a conversation about this. It seems like yet another iteration of 2 particular towns trying to write the future and dragging us along with them. And yeah, we haven't had an EMS review committee meeting. The last 4 have been canceled.
We had a bad stretch of, we were able to pick every time it was going to snow over the winter, I think, for EMS meetings that got canceled or postponed. They are in the works of trying to schedule another one via Zoom, which will be hard to cancel because of snow, but with our luck, some other craziness will come up and it won't occur. But now we haven't had a meeting it was last year, wasn't it, the last one?
And they're supposed to be monthly or quarterly?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot to put out there and a lot to digest. One of the concerns as an administrator is, were there other options explored? Are there other options? I mean, obviously, one option is to have a conversation with the people we're doing if we think we're headed in the right road, down the right road. I will say that certainly Northeast has hit their performance measures. You get those reports periodically when we receive them in terms of what we've contracted with them to do. This may turn into an exercise, but an exercise in maybe we need to change what we're contracting for or with. But the current measures are all being met or exceeded by Northeast, so
Well,
that's positive.
I personally am disturbed at being asked for money to participate in a study that we weren't part of deciding what the parameters of the study are, what the goals or outcome, how this study is actually going to be implemented or utilized. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever for us to participate or contribute financially. And, I feel like such a broken record, David, as you've alluded to, is what are our goals? Are our goals different than what we're already accomplishing? And shouldn't the decision makers of the current partnership, I guess I will use that word loosely, shouldn't we have a conversation to see if our goals are aligned in the first place? And if they're not, if they're divergent, fine, let's have that conversation, and then we can know where to go from. But I think it has to start with having a conversation. And if we hit with an impasse there, then I would encourage this board to start doing our own research.
There's certainly, there, not to interrupt in the middle, but why not? To date, there hasn't been a request for a financial contribution, but I would hope that if we were to participate, that we'd somehow find some way to, contribute that. But nobody said this whole effort's going to cost X number of dollars and we want Lincolnville to pay Y number of dollars. But if we're going to participate, we ought to be try to be considered a full partner and pay our share, however that's determined. Sorry, I'll sit back.
No, that's okay. I see consultant getting thrown around a lot, and yeah, sorry, David.
In reading all that 200 pages worth of document, not quite that bad. I was disturbed by the fact that the dating on the document is 2004, and that the dating of the last reference of when something was done on it was 2016. And are they using current information or old information? Are they looking at making decisions on something that worked good 16, 18 years ago? Or is this still in the changing times in the last 18 years or whatever? Nothing's changed? That worries me.
Yeah, and I think this came from the consultant to them and was certainly preliminary in nature to kind of get your thoughts and your juices flowing. And they really wanted to spend well, the request was, would you review this, to both Samantha and I, and be quite honest, been a bit preoccupied with a few other things recently.
Mhm. Yeah.
And again, didn't want to get too far out ahead of that issue. You know, no place like being out ahead of the board when you're an administrator, in terms of doing stuff that the board isn't ready for the community to take on. And you know, these are questions that obviously, as we reviewed this, we'd get into a little bit more, a lot more.
Was this a directive that the Camden and Rockport select boards asked of their managers to pursue?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would presume that they have reached out to Tom Judge from Life Flight and Dr. I'm going to butcher Chris's name, Mikalakis from Penn Bay Medical Center, with their board's knowledge and at least consent, if not direction. Certainly the hospital has been looking at what else is out there and involved, as Northeast does do transports from the hospital. But Penn Bay is yet to say, you know, they want in on the conversation and they're willing to kick in some monies too, that I'm aware of. They haven't had that conversation with us.
Other thoughts from board members? Josh, did you get stepped on?
I had a question about, yeah, the funding, and David answered that.
Anyone else? Any other thoughts or action that should be taken? There's a recommendation that we reach out to them yet again and see if we can get together as a group and have a conversation about our goals.
Well, once again, getting some information like this, it just makes the gut feeling is that, you know, we're going to do this. You can straggle along if you want. That's the feeling that a little town gets. It says, to be determined, are Camden and Rockport doing this completely together? Hope and Lincolnville participation. Are they looking for us to participate? Or, you know, I would think to make something like this work, you need all of the participants, and the more the better. I just don't understand why we never find out until after the fact. I don't get it. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what I want to ask, to be real honest with you, and I certainly am concerned about what I might say.
well, certainly communities on a annual or periodic basis, depending on your contract, you know, you have to take a step back and say, is this what our community is looking for? I mean, I think back to when we last issued the snow plowing bid, we had a conversation at the board level as to, do we want to up the level of service, or, you know, not have trucks go around quite as much, or, you know, what do we want to see? And I think that that's what Camden and Rockport, or where they are, they want to reach out to their community and say, is this, you know, is this really where we want to be? And in doing so, I mean, that's a prudent thing to do. For us, you know, we've had months where we've had 4 calls in Lincolnville, and, you know, if they were paramedic level calls, they were covered by paramedics. If they weren't, they still might have been covered by paramedics, because that's what Northeast had for a crew. But they've met the mark, and certainly the call volume to Camden and Rockport far exceeds our call volume. I mean, there's averages a couple a day compared to ours being one every couple of days. So, you know, I think it's good for communities to, or elected people to have an understanding of what the citizenry wants. But there are many avenues or different avenues to get there. And this is where they appear to be headed. And on the same token, whether we participate or not, probably, I won't say doesn't matter to them. I think they're looking to get some input from citizens, whether we choose to do that or not. We think we already know what our citizens want or desire. Awkward pause.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say, frankly. You know, I'm just so
Yeah, I'm not.
disappointed in this entire process. I feel like we are tiptoeing around some foregone conclusion that another party has made on our behalf. And I would like to open the opportunity to have a conversation amongst the partnership that has been functioning thus far. And in my limited knowledge of how the finances work in terms of providing us with these services, it's always been that through this partnership, we have been able to afford this. But as this has unfolded over the last few years, certainly a number of negotiating points, I think, have been raised, namely how we are assessed our fees. I mean, if you look at what Lincolnville pays comparatively to the other more frequent users of the emergency transport services, I think we could negotiate some better. I think it bears having a conversation. I think a number of things bear having a conversation, but only if we can get together and have those chats. So I would encourage someone to make a motion if the board is so inclined.
I move that before we decide to participate in any alternative EMS system development or expend any resources on this effort, that we once again request that the boards of selectmen from the towns of Lincolnville, Hope, Camden, and Rockport meet together to discuss our goals and objectives in regards to the provision of emergency medical services, and that the board chair be authorized to communicate this desire for a meeting to our partnering communities.
I second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Barrows. Further discussion?
I feel that although we may, for lack of a better way to say it, force a meeting, I feel that what is adequate for two little towns is certainly not anywhere near what the two larger towns are looking to get. Maybe that being why it appears they're moving forward.
Yeah. Well, and that's fair, fair enough. The same operational paradigm isn't necessarily going to fit us all.
It would just be nice if the consideration of being heard was before the fact instead of appearing to be after the fact.
Agreed. Yeah. If there's no further discussion, and I'm not seeing anyone jumping up and down, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The motion passes. Thank you very much. We have the warrants in your binder. No actual invoices. If you want to see those, I'm sure we can make that happen. can I have a motion for the treasurer and payroll warrants?
I move that the board approve the treasurers and payroll warrant.
Second.
Second.
Selectman Barrows motioned, Selectman Garrettson seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes,
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you very much. Is there any other business the board wishes to conduct? Seeing nothing, can I have a final motion, please?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Selectman Barrows motion, Selectman Fishman seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes,
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Fishman, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Thank you.
Please feel free to reach out to me and let me know how the best way to get your packets back and get a few John Hancocks.
Okay,
Okay.
Sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you.
thank
Aye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.